Ladies and gentlemen, friends and fellow global citizens, let me tell you something very important, something too few people are talking about. As the world steps into a new era, a new global Cold War, India has one secret weapon, a weapon not of brute force alone, not just missiles or warships, but something deeper, more durable, more powerful. And if India wields it right, it can tilt the balance, influence outcomes, steer the map in ways that benefit not just itself, but peace, stability, dignity. This secret weapon is strategic autonomy with moral authority, built on culture, democracy, innovation, and resolve. Now you might say, Arnold, what do you mean by strategic autonomy with moral authority? It's simple. India has long heritage, a civilization of thousands of years. It has democracy in a region that is full of authoritarian regimes. It has economic dynamism, scientific capacity, and a geopolitical position in South Asia, bordering rising powers, with oceans and islands, with massive population, bridging east and west. India is in the middle of everything that matters in the 21st century, and India has learned, through wars, conflicts, border skirmishes, diplomatic pressure, that it cannot rely solely on others. It must chart its own course, but not in isolation, with collaboration, with moral clarity, with innovation. That's the weapon. In the last few years we have seen how the global order is being challenged. We see China's assertiveness on land, sea, and in technological spaces. We see a fractured world where alliances are shifting, where great power competition is no longer behind closed doors or proxies. It's on trade, tech, space, cyber diplomacy. We see the US reconfiguring commitments, the EU unsure, many countries wanting a non-aligned path, wanting multiple partnerships. In this environment, you either align blindly, becoming a pawn, or you preserve your space, your credibility, your capacity to choose. India is choosing the latter. Strategic autonomy means being able to talk with everybody, cooperate where interests match, resist pressure where core values are threatened. It means being a credible partner, but not a captive. And moral authority means that other countries trust you, respect you, see you as fair, you speak your truth, you act your values. Let me give you examples so this is not just abstract. First, India's diplomatic positioning in the Russia-Ukraine war, not blindly choosing one camp, but balancing its history, its energy needs, its strategic ties with both Russia and the West, while emphasizing principles of sovereignty, international law, human rights. India is walking a tightrope, but many are watching, many respect that walk. Second, India's engagement with global South countries, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, in Central Asia, offering developmental partnerships, technology, infrastructure, vaccine diplomacy, climate cooperation. India is not just a region power, it's becoming a power that the rest of the global South can look to, that builds soft power, that builds relationships that matter in times of Cold War competition. Third, the investment in technology, artificial intelligence, space, cyber capabilities. In today's Cold War 2.0, wars are no longer only fought with tanks, they are fought in vacuum, in electrons, in lines of code, in satellites. If you don't have capabilities there, you are vulnerable. India has been pushing hard. ISRO advances, ISAT anti-satellite capacities, sophisticated cyber defenses, AI incubators, linking tech with national security. These give leverage, not superiority in every front, but the ability to deter, to retaliate, to protect national interest. Fourth, the demographic dividend. India has one of the youngest populations in the world. When many Western countries confront aging populations, when many countries suffer slow growth or demographic decline, India has vitality, energy, creativity, young minds that can learn, build, invent. If the education catches up, if health and opportunity spread, if infrastructure follows, that demographic weapon can become unstoppable. It means a capable workforce, a dynamic consumer base, a growing middle class, a large domestic market that gives India leverage. It can attract investment, set standards, shape markets, Fifth, the moral dimension, democracy, tolerance, diversity, institutional strength. When the global Cold War asks, not just who shoots fastest, but who tells the story, who inspires, who is seen as an alternative. When soft power, legitimacy, values matter, India has an edge. People around the world watch India's press, its institutions, its courts, its struggles, its vibrancy. Yes, there are faults, challenges, but the idea of India as a democracy in the neighborhood is powerful. The strength of civil society, the reach of its diaspora, the power of its culture, music, film, literature, yoga, spirituality, pluralism. These are not soft fluff. They are part of the fabric of global influence. But a weapon by itself is only useful if it's sharpened, aimed and used wisely. So India must do a few things. 1. Clarity of purpose. What are the red lines? What are the values? What cannot be compromised? What are the interests, territorial, economic, technological, that India will protect at all costs? What partnerships are essential, and which ones are optional? 2. Investment, infrastructure, education, health, research. If you want autonomy, you need self-reliance in critical areas, semiconductors, space systems, defense technologies, clean energy, supply chain. India must keep reducing its dependence where vulnerability can be exploited. 3. Alliances that respect agency. India should make friends, strategic partnerships, but not at the cost of its ability to act independently, whether it's in Quad BRICS or bilateral relationships with the US, Europe, Russia or neighbors. The deals must preserve India's ability to speak up, to act. 4. Narrative and communication. India must tell its story, not just what it does but why. It must counter disinformation, ensure that its voice in global fora is heard clearly. It must show that its moral authority isn't just declared, it is lived in how it treats minorities, in rule of law, in transparency, because when you lose moral authority, you lose credibility, and that gives power to those who fill the vacuum. 5. Resilience. The new Cold War will test us not just externally but internally. Economic shocks, technology blockades, border skirmishes, climate disasters. India needs to build resilience, social cohesion, supply chain diversification, decentralized energy, robust logistics, so that when a crisis hits, we do not splinter, we do not panic, we do not lose our footing. Now I know many say, Arnold, the world is already polarized. Pressure is intense. China pushing, US expecting alignment, every country picking a side. Yes, but that is exactly why this secret weapon matters. Because in a world of forces, if you stand only by force, you may win battles but lose souls. But if you combine strength with moral force, capability with values, then you can shape the battlefield, influence the alliances, set the tone. India already is showing signs. It is hosting global summits, pushing climate action, leading renewable energy drives, solar, green hydrogen. It is pursuing digital infrastructure for millions. It is investing in health, in vaccines. All of this builds credibility. When India negotiates climate finance, when it talks about debt relief, when it says it stands for democracy, it is not empty words. They carry weight, because India speaks to many different worlds. The rich and poor, the global north and south, the secular and spiritual. One more thing, the diaspora, Indians all over the world, are not just people who left home. They are bridges. They carry values, culture, connection. They are scientists, doctors, entrepreneurs. They vote, they build institutions, they shape image. When they succeed, when they integrate, but also preserve identity, they become living proof of India's promise, and global opinion counts enormously in the new Cold War of perception, legitimacy, narrative. And finally, India must remember humility. In this age of rising tensions, growing polarizations, and competing global narratives, it's too easy, to fall into the trap of pride, of thinking that strength alone defines a nation's greatness. But history teaches us again and again, power, when wielded arrogantly, ultimately collapses under its own weight. It burns bridges, isolates allies, creates resentment. The real power, the enduring power, is the kind that is exercised with empathy, fairness, and restraint. When strength is guided by purpose, when a hand that can strike chooses instead to lift, That is the essence of moral authority. India's position in the world right now is not just a matter of hard capability. Yes, it has missiles. Yes, it has satellite. Yes, it has cyber warriors and economic clout and technological muscle, but that is only half the equation. The other half, the half that will truly determine how far India can go in this new global Cold War, is how it uses that power. Will it rise only for its own sake, or will it rise in a way that inspires others, in a way that sets an example? Humility doesn't mean weakness, it doesn't mean silence, it means understanding that leadership is not just about control, it's about responsibility. You don't win in the long run by crushing the weak or intimidating the neutral. You win by building trust, by forming coalitions of the willing, by lifting others when they stumble, and showing solidarity when the world feels unstable. Let's be clear, countries around the world are watching India closely, and not just the big players, the United States, China, Russia, the European Union, but also smaller nations in Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia, the Pacific Islands. These countries don't want to be pawns in someone else's chessboard. They want options, they want dignity, and they're asking, who will stand with us when the pressure rises? Who will offer help without strings? Who can be a friend, not a master? India has the chance to be that answer, but it can only do so if it remembers the moral core of its own civilization. Vasudha Kutumbakam, the world is one family. That is not just an ancient phrase, that it is a foreign policy doctrine, a moral compass, a reminder that leadership is earned not by domination, but by example. This is not some vague idealism, it's a strategic asset. In a global Cold War, hard alliances may be shaky, but respect, genuine respect, is a force multiplier. If people trust you, they will trade with you, they will collaborate on tech, they will vote for your resolutions in the UN, they will adopt your platform, your standards, your cultural exports. India's soft power, its films, its yoga, its philosophy, its that. All of this becomes more potent when backed by a nation that walks its talk. So here is the truth. India's secret weapon is not just buried deep underground in missile silos or housed inside launch vehicles on a rocket pad. It's not just in the labs building quantum processors or AI systems or satellite mapping the moon. It's something deeper and stronger. It is what's inside its people. It is the values passed down over thousands of years. Traditions that teach balance, self-control, duty, the creativity that lives in its entrepreneurs, its artists, its science, the hunger for freedom, for expression, for meaning, the ability to look injustice in the face and still choose hope. When you think about India's resilience, surviving colonialism, partition, wars, poverty, political upheaval, and still emerging as a democracy, still holding elections with hundreds of millions of voters, still but remaining united, you realize this is not normal, this is exceptional, that's not a weakness, that is raw strength. In a new global Cold War, where the world is again dividing into spheres of influence, with pressure mounting from all sides, India has a unique role. It can talk to all camps without being trapped by any. It can call out wrongs without being dragged into every fight. It can say no to pressure, yes to principle. That is what strategic autonomy looks like, but it only works, only, if it is grounded in something deeper, and that deeper thing is moral authority. So India must ask itself, and answer clearly, what kind of power does it want to be? One that others fear, or one that others follow? That answer will not be written in military doctrine alone. It will be found in policy, yes, but also in poetry, in how India treats its weakest, in how it educates its children, in how it protects dissent, in how it handles its contradictions. The world isn't looking for a perfect country, it's looking for an honest one, a country that knows its flaws but keeps striving. That is what earns admiration. India has the firepower, but it also has the soul. It has the tanks, but also the temples, the code but also the conscience. And in a world that is once again being carved up into camp, that balance, that ability to lead with strength, but also with heart, may just be the ultimate weapon. So remember, real greatness is not measured by how loudly you speak, or how far your missiles can fly. It is measured by how many others choose to walk beside you, not because they have to, but because they want to. That is the power India must cultivate, and if it does, if it commits fully to that path, to that kind of leadership, then this Cold War, this dangerous chapter in human history, could end not with destruction, but with transformation. Not with domination, but with dignity. Not with fear, but with freedom. Thank you.